They demoted me with a ceremonial jade stamp. Not a memo, not a private meeting, not even a decent cup of tea first. A jade stamp. Elder Malvin pressed it onto a red silk notice in front of the entire resource hall, while 37 clerks, 12 outer disciples, and one very smug nephew watched the ink flare gold. Toren Ashfall will step down from senior resource clerk, effective immediately, he announced. The vault records will now be supervised by Derek Vey, special appointee to the Sect Master's office. Derek smiled like he had just ascended 3 realms by inheriting a desk. My name is Toren Ashfall. I'm 39 years old. For 11 years, I managed Spirit Stone allocation, pill distribution, contribution point audits, and emergency resource releases for Moonspire Sect. In plain language, I was the boring man who made sure the cultivators got paid, the alchemists got supplied, the elders got their monthly pride allowance, and the vault didn't lock itself out of sheer disgust. Derek was 24, wore a silver thread robe that cost more than my mother's roof repairs, and had been in the resource hall for 9 days. 9. He had already called the enchanted ledger, the big glowing book, twice. But he was the Sect Master's nephew, and apparently bloodline counted as work experience if your uncle owned enough mountains. Elder Malvin handed me my new badge. Junior Inventory Assistant. The badge was 10. After 11 years, 3 royal audits, 2 famine seasons, 1 beast-tide emergency, and exactly 418 nights spent sleeping under my desk during quarterly reconciliations, I had been reduced to the man responsible for counting cracked training swords and expired incense bundles. Derek leaned close as the hall pretended not to listen. "Don't take it personally," he said. "The sect needs someone modern in charge, someone with vision." I looked past him at the Spirit Stone vault doors. 12 feet high, black ironwood, 9 layers of runes, a moonstone lock humming softly in the center. And beneath all that beautiful, expensive magic was my audit imprint. Not my password. Not my signature. My imprint. A decade-old soul pressure record certified during the famine audit, when the vault almost collapsed because the previous elder had been skimming grade 3 spirit stones into his cousin's wine business. The vault didn't open because the sect owned it. The vault opened because I had sworn, under penalty of soul scorch, that every resource moving through it would be recorded honestly. Derek didn't know that. Elder Malvin didn't remember that. The Sect Master had definitely forgotten, because people with private cloud palaces don't usually read appendix clauses. So I took the tin badge, bowed once, and said, "Before you finalize this, Elder, you may want to review the vault continuity seal." Derek laughed. Actually laughed. "Toren," he said, loud enough for the interns near the copy crystal to hear, "you're a clerk. The vault belongs to Moonspire Sect." I looked at the runes pulsing above the vault door. Then I looked back at him. Of course. And that was the moment I stopped protecting them from their own paperwork. I didn't start at Moonspire Sect as anyone important. Nobody does, unless they're born with a famous surname, a rare spiritual root, or the ability to flatter old men without visibly dying inside. I had none of those. My cultivation was average. My fire root cracked during my second foundation attempt, which means I can warm tea, light lamps, and make a dramatic entrance only if the room is already very dark. My father died when I was 22, leaving my mother with a curse debt from a failed exorcism contract, and my younger sister with tuition fees at a healer academy. So I took the resource hall exam. People think resource work is just counting stones. It is not. Counting stones is what children do when elders want free labor. Actual resource work is knowing why Elder Sane always requests marrow-cleansing pills 3 days before inspections. It is knowing which alchemy furnace eats twice as much moon salt in winter. It is knowing that if outer disciples get their stipend 1 day late, they don't riot, but they do start accidentally breaking sect furniture. And furniture repairs come out of our department. I learned everything. Spirit stone grades, pill shelf lives, beast core storage temperatures, contribution point adjustments, emergency ration formulas, vendor contracts with the Mist Crane Caravan, royal tax exemptions, disciplinary deductions, funeral allowances, apprentice injury reimbursements. Very glamorous work. Nothing says life of a cultivator like arguing with a sword disciple over whether a shattered elbow counts as training-related when he shattered it arm wrestling a statue. By my 4th year, I was the person everyone came to when something didn't balance. By my 7th, I could tell which department had overspent just by the smell of the ledger ink. By my 9th, the vault answered to my seal faster than it answered to the elders. Not because I was special, because I was there. That's the part people like Derek never understand. Systems don't trust titles. Systems trust consistency. Every month I arrived before dawn, brewed bitter thornleaf tea, and reviewed the previous night's requests while the crystal lamps buzzed over my desk. I knew which junior clerks were hiding mistakes, which elders rounded numbers in their own favor, and which vendors needed to be paid early because their courier ravens were petty enough to drop invoices into soup. I also knew where the sect was fragile. Moonspire looked powerful from the outside. 7 peaks, 3,000 disciples, a tournament ground big enough to make young men stupid in public. But inside it was held together by ledgers, seals, oath clauses, vendor patience, and exhausted clerks who kept small disasters from becoming expensive disasters. I was one of those clerks. For 11 years, I missed birthdays, slept through festival fireworks, and sent half my salary home to keep the curse collectors away from my mother's gate. My official salary was 420 low-grade spirit stones a month. Derek, transition advisor, allowance, I later learned, was 1,800. For transition, he transitioned from not knowing anything to knowing slightly less than nothing, but in a nicer robe. Still, I kept quiet. Because I needed the job. Because my sister's healer license had 2 payments left. Because my mother's curse debt had finally dropped below 9,000 stones. Because men like me do not get to be dramatic when other people depend on them. So I swallowed the little insults. Just a clerk. Ledger man. Ashfall fetch the reports. Toren will know. He practically lives in that dusty corner. I did know. I did live in that corner. And that dusty corner was the reason their precious vault opened every morning at 6th bell. Derek's first mistake was moving my desk. Not firing me, not yet. Moving my desk. He ordered 2 outer disciples to carry my old ironwood desk from the main records alcove to the back storage room beside the cracked practice dummies. He said he wanted better energy flow. My desk had been bolted into the floor because it sat directly over the ledger conduit. The ledger conduit is the enchanted vein that connects daily requests to the vault's approval matrix. Again, very normal office furniture, if your office furniture can reject fraud and occasionally hiss at liars. I told him that desk is part of the resource channel. He waved a hand. We'll put in something cleaner. You can't just move a conduit anchor. Toren, he said, smiling that polished little smile, not everything old is sacred. No, I said, but some things old are load-bearing. He ignored that. The new desk he chose was white lacquer, imported from the Cloud Lotus Pavilion. It had pearl handles, floating drawers, and no grounding runes. By noon, every requisition slip submitted from that desk turned upside down and translated itself into old tortoise script. By 2, the alchemy department received approval for 600 jars of pickled radish instead of 60 measures of powdered moonbone. By 4, the copy crystal began duplicating Derek's lunch order onto official budget forms. I fixed it. Of course I fixed it. I was still trying to be professional. Also, if the alchemists didn't get moonbone, their pill batch would fail, and then 200 disciples would complain about weak meridian supplements. Nobody deserves that sound. Derek did not thank me. He told people the legacy system had resisted modernization. His second mistake came 3 days later. He removed my vault access badge from the morning rotation. That meant I could no longer open the outer register, approve sealed withdrawals, or reconcile the spirit stone pouches before distribution. I went to his office, which had been my office until he replaced my shelves with a decorative waterfall that made the humidity ruin 3 scrolls a day. I said, "You can remove my administrative access, but the vault's audit imprint still checks against my seal at midnight." He didn't look up from his crystal mirror. "I already had security transfer your permissions." Permissions and imprint are not the same thing. They sound the same. They really don't. He sighed. "This is exactly why Elder Malvin wanted me here. You make everything complicated." I almost laughed. I didn't make it complicated. I just knew where the complications were buried. I said, "The continuity seal was created after the famine audit. It requires the certified auditor to remain in active resource authority unless formally replaced through a 7-step royal compliance process." He finally looked at me. "Can you simplify that?" "Yes. If I'm no longer recognized by the vault may stop recognizing the sect." He stared for one breath. Then he smiled. "You people always exaggerate your importance when change arrives." You people. Clerks. There it was. A whole lifetime in one word. Clerks. The people who knew where the keys were, which keys were cursed, which keys only worked during rain, and which keys must never be given to nephews. I said one last thing. The next full vault check is tonight at moonrise. You should ask royal compliance for an emergency transfer before then. He leaned back, folded his hands over his embroidered sash, and said, "Toren, I appreciate your concern, but the sect has real cultivators for real problems." So I nodded. I returned to the storage room. I packed my worn quill case, my cracked teacup, my mother's last letter, and the little brass nameplate that said Senior Resource Clerk. Then I placed the tin badge on Derek's pearl desk. He looked pleased. That irritated me more than the demotion. "You're leaving?" he asked. "I'm accepting the change in my duties." "You're being dramatic." "No," I said, "I'm being accurate." At 5:40 in the evening, I walked out of Moonspire Resource Hall for the first time in 11 years without checking the vault. At 6:00 the moon rose. At 6:03 the vault asked for me. At 6:04 Moonspire Sect discovered that nephews do not count as audit imprints. The first mirror call came at 6:17. I was at home, repairing a loose shutter while my mother sat by the stove, complaining that the neighbor's spirit rooster screamed with personal malice. The crystal mirror on our table flickered blue. Derek's face appeared, pale and stretched. "Toren," he said, "the vault is pausing." I tightened the shutter hinge. "Pausing?" "The door won't open." "Did it give a notice?" "It says, continuity authority absent, primary audit imprint inactive, resource release suspended pending verification." My mother looked at me over her tea. I kept my face calm. That sounds clear. Derek's jaw tightened. I need you to come back and place your hand on the seal. I'm no longer an active resource authority. You resigned. No, I was demoted. You left your badge. The junior badge did not include vault authority. He glanced sideways, probably at Elder Malvin. His voice lowered. This is just a temporary administrative issue. Yes. So come fix it. No. Silence. A very satisfying silence, though I tried not to enjoy it too openly because my mother raised me better than that. Mostly. Derek said, the morning stipend release is scheduled for 6th bell. I know. The inner disciples are due tournament supplements. I know. The alchemy furnaces require grade 2 stones by dawn. I know. Then you understand this is serious. I understood that before you moved my desk. He ended the call. The second call came from Elder Malvin at 6:32. He skipped greeting me. Ashfall, you will report to the hall immediately. No, Elder. You are still sect personnel. I am junior inventory assistant assigned to storage, according to your stamped notice. Junior inventory assistants do not access primary vault seals. You are being difficult. No, difficult would have been letting Derek submit 600 jars of radish to the alchemy budget. Another silence. Then he said, we can discuss your title. I'm sure you can. We can restore your previous badge by morning. The vault requires formal continuity recognition, not just a badge. It was in the audit file. What audit file? The one I told you to review. He inhaled through his nose. That is the sound elders make when reality has not shown proper respect. By 7:15, the resource hall was in full panic. I know because clerks talk. They sent mirror messages, raven notes, and one whispering moth that landed in my soup and begged me to please answer Nira from payroll. I answered Nira. Nira had worked beside me for 6 years. She had 3 children, terrible handwriting, and the strongest tea in the department. She didn't deserve the mess. Toren, she whispered through the moth, how bad is it? Did the vault enter cold suspension? Yes. Did the contribution ledger freeze? Yes. Did Derek try to override with bloodline authority? A pause. Yes. Did the vault laugh? Another pause. It made a chime. That was laughter. She groaned. Cold suspension meant the vault would not release stones, pills, beast cores, manuals, or emergency reserves until royal compliance verified the authority chain. Normally, that took 2 weeks. Emergency processing cost 14,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Moonspire had the money, but the money was inside the vault. That was the first beautiful circle. The second was the Mist Crane caravan. Every 8th day, Moonspire paid the caravan 22,500 low-grade spirit stones to deliver alchemy salts, furnace oil, and spirit herbs from the valley markets. If payment missed the deadline, the contract allowed them to suspend delivery and charge a restart fee of 18%. That deadline was midnight. The third circle was the tournament. Moonspire's annual Silver Branch tournament began in 2 days. Visiting elders, sponsor houses, and 3 royal observers were already on the road. Tournament prize funds were locked in the vault. So were the guest stipends. So were the hospitality budgets. By 8:20, 6 courier ravens had landed on my roof. By 8:45, one had stolen a dumpling. By 9:10, my mother asked if I had finally become important or merely inconvenient. Both, I said. She nodded. Good, eat before they beg, never negotiate hungry. My mother is a wise woman. At 9:38 the Sect Master called. Not through a clerk. Not through an elder. His own personal mirror, framed in white jade, lit up on my table like a small judgmental moon. "Toren Ashfall," he said, voice smooth as polished stone. "There appears to have been a misunderstanding." I looked at the cold tea beside me. There always is, when powerful people read consequences for the first time. By dawn, Moonspire had missed 3 internal deadlines and 1 external payment. The outer disciples did not receive their weekly cultivation stipend of 35 low-grade stones each. That affected 1,180 disciples. You have not truly heard workplace dissatisfaction until over 1,000 young cultivators realize breakfast porridge is not free and begin discussing structural injustice near the dining hall. The alchemy department shut down furnace rooms 2 through 5 because the furnace oil release required vault approval. Elder Sane, who had laughed when Derek called me old process, sent a mirror message at 7:12 in the morning asking whether I remembered the emergency oil workaround. I did. I did not answer. At 8:00, the Mist Crane caravan suspended Moonspire's delivery route. At 8:20, they sent a polite notice with 3 stamps and no mercy. At 9:00, Royal Compliance received an automatic vault alert. That was not my doing. That was the vault following the famine audit rules. When a sect resource vault freezes during active tournament week, the kingdom wants to know whether someone is stealing, hiding, laundering, or being impressively stupid. In this case, it was the last one. By 10:30, 2 royal auditors arrived on white feather cranes. They wore blue robes, silver gloves, and expressions that made guilty men confess to crimes they had only considered. Derek tried to greet them at the gate. The vault rejected his seal in front of them. Then it projected the full continuity notice across the resource hall wall in glowing letters. I heard about that from Neera, who said half the clerks pretended not to read it while reading it very carefully. The notice listed my name. Toren Ashfall, Certified Resource Auditor, Royal Compliance Grade 4. Active since year 812, Rain Month, Day 19. Required for vault continuity unless removed for cause, death, voluntary retirement, or approved 7-stage imprint transfer. I had not been removed for cause. I was very much not dead. I had not retired. And Derek's appointment scroll, according to Neera, had been filed under decorative announcements because it lacked 3 required stamps and 1 oath witness. That made me smile. Not broadly. Just enough to annoy my conscience. The begging began after lunch. First came Elder Malvin to my house in person. He arrived in a carriage pulled by 2 cloud deer, which startled my mother's chickens so badly one laid an egg directly into my herb basket. He wore his formal violet robe. That robe meant he was either attending court or trying to look innocent. "Toren," he said, standing at my gate, "may we speak?" I opened the gate halfway. He looked older than he had yesterday. Consequences do that, very cleansing for the complexion. "We handled the transition poorly," he said. That is one description. Derek was enthusiastic. That is another. He did not understand the depth of your responsibilities. He told me anyone could do paperwork. Elder Malvin looked at the ground. To his credit, he seemed embarrassed. To my greater irritation, he should have been embarrassed much earlier. "We are prepared to restore your title," he said. "Senior Resource Clerk, effective immediately. Salary increased to 700 low-grade stones per month. Back pay for the demotion period." The demotion period was 1 day. "Yes. Generous." His mouth tightened. "Toren." I let the silence sit between us. Then I said, "The vault requires more than my title restored. It requires a formal recognition that my authority was improperly revoked. It requires royal compliance filing. It requires the sect to acknowledge breach of continuity protocol." That would be embarrassing. Yes. Publicly damaging. Yes. The tournament sponsors may hear of it. They probably already have. Ravens gossip worse than clerks. One of the ravens on my roof cawed like it agreed. Elder Malvin lowered his voice. "What do you want?" That was the first honest question anyone from Moonspire had asked me in years. Not "what can you fix?" Not "why is this late?" Not "can you stay another hour?" What do you want? I almost didn't know how to answer. Then I thought of my mother's roof, my sister's final healer payment, the nights under my desk, the tin badge, the word clerks. "I want a written apology entered into the sect record," I said. "I want my title restored as Chief Resource Auditor, not Senior Clerk. I want 1,500 low-grade stones per month, matching Derek's transition allowance minus the insult surcharge, which I am kindly waiving. I want 2 assistants of my choosing. I want authority to reject resource requests from elders who bypass procedure. I want my mother's curse debt paid from the hardship fund you denied me last winter." His face went still. "That fund is for essential sect personnel." I smiled. "Then I suppose you should decide whether I am essential." He left without agreeing. That was fine. The Sect Master arrived at sunset. The Sect Master had never visited my house before. Most Sect Masters don't wander into Clerk neighborhoods unless a prophecy, scandal, or tax collector drags them there. He came without a carriage. Just one guard, one legal scribe, and Derek walking 3 steps behind him looking like expensive laundry left in the rain. My mother saw them through the window and said, "Oh good, the tall one finally brought the problem." The Sect Master bowed to her first. "Smart man." Then he bowed to me. "Smarter." "Toren Ashfall," he said, "Moonspire Sect owes you an apology." Derek stared at the road as if hopping it would swallow him. I did not invite them inside. My mother's chairs are old, and I was not risking elder robes on furniture that squeaks when judging people. So we stood in the yard under the evening lamps, while fireflies blinked over the cabbage patch. The legal scribe unrolled a document. The apology was formal. Very formal. It stated that my demotion had been improperly processed, that my audit authority had been revoked without cause, and that the resource hall had failed to follow royal continuity requirements. It did not say, because the Sect Master's nephew is an arrogant little peacock. Legal documents rarely have poetry. Still, it was close enough. Then the Sect Master offered terms. Chief Resource Auditor. 1,500 low-grade stones per month. A signing bonus of 12,000 stones. 2 assistants. Independent authority over vault procedure. Hardship payment of 8,700 stones to clear my mother's curse debt. A private office. Derek's removal from Resource Hall. And one more thing. "The royal auditors require your presence tomorrow," he said. "If you return tonight, we may avoid full sanction." There it was. The real reason for humility. Royal sanctions for negligent vault continuity started at 90,000 mid-grade stones and could include temporary suspension of tournament hosting rights. Moonspire could survive the money. It would not survive the shame. I looked at Derek. He finally lifted his head. His eyes were red, but I didn't see tears, just anger wearing embarrassment's coat. "I was told," he said quietly, "that you were blocking reform." "No," I said, "I was blocking collapse." He swallowed. "I didn't know." "You didn't ask." That landed harder than I expected. Because that was the whole story, really. He didn't ask. None of them did. They walked past the clerks, the assistants, the quartermasters, the night scribes, the people with ink on their sleeves and keys on their belts, and assumed the building ran because important people existed inside it. It didn't. It ran because tired people made it run. The Sect Master said, "Will you return?" My mother looked at me. Not with pressure, with permission. That almost broke me more than the demotion had. For 11 years, I thought winning meant keeping the job. But standing there, watching the most powerful man in Moonspire Sect negotiate beside my cabbage patch, I realized something uncomfortable. I didn't want my old life back. Not exactly. I wanted them to understand what it had cost. So I said, I'll return as an external compliance consultant for the emergency audit. The Sect Master's expression flickered. At what rate? 4,000 low-grade spirit stones per day, minimum 7 days, paid in advance from the emergency reserve once the vault opens. The written apology remains. My mother's debt is paid tonight from Sect Treasury, not vault funds. Near Appel becomes acting resource hall manager with full authority. My 2 chosen assistants receive salary adjustments. Derek signs a statement acknowledging he was not qualified for vault supervision. Derek's face tightened. The Sect Master said, and after 7 days. After 7 days, I decide whether Moonspire deserves my employment. No one spoke. A night insect clicked in the grass. The legal scribe looked like he was trying not to smile. Finally, the Sect Master nodded. Agreed. Derek signed first. His handwriting was terrible. I respected that. Terrible handwriting is the one tradition that unites all departments. That night, I returned to the resource hall. The clerk stood when I entered. I hated that. Then I liked it. Then I hated that I liked it. Nira handed me my old quill case. Someone had cleaned it. Someone else had placed my brass nameplate on the front desk. Not Senior Resource Clerk. Chief Resource Auditor. The vault doors hummed when I approached. The moonstone lock brightened like an old cat pretending it had not missed me. I placed my palm against the seal. The vault asked one question, written in silver light. Authority restored. I looked back at the room. At the clerks. At the elders waiting nervously. At Derek silent for once. At the royal auditors standing with their silver gloves folded. Then I said, temporarily. The vault opened anyway. Even ancient magic enjoys good boundaries. The emergency audit lasted 6 days. Not 7. I finished early because, despite popular belief, I am very good at my job when nobody is actively replacing my desk with decorative plumbing. The royal auditors found no theft. They found negligence, improper authority transfer, missing oath witnesses, reckless appointment procedure, and one budget request for 600 jars of pickled radish still haunting the alchemy archive. Moonspire paid a reduced fine of 18,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Painful but survivable. The tournament continued, though the opening ceremony started 2 hours late because the hospitality fund had to be reauthorized line by line. The visiting elders complained, then ate the free candied lotus seeds anyway because principals have limits. Nira became permanent resource hall manager. Her salary doubled. She hired 2 more clerks and banned pearl desks from operational areas. I framed that policy. My mother's curse debt was cleared before midnight. The collector came personally, removed the black thread from our gate, and looked disappointed that nobody cried. My mother cried later privately, while pretending the stove smoke had attacked her. My sister sent a healer bird from the academy, with one sentence written on its wing ribbon. Finally, That was all. It was enough. As for Derek, he was reassigned to ceremonial donor relations, which is sect language for stand near rich people and do not touch systems. 6 months later, I heard he had improved. Apparently, humiliation can be a decent teacher when paperwork does the disciplining. And me. I did not return full-time. The Sect Master offered twice. The second offer was ridiculous. 2,200 stones a month, private residence near the East Pond, full elder-level dining access. I turned it down. Instead, I opened Ashfall compliance and resource assurance from a rented office above a tea shop near the South Gate. My first client was the Mist Crane Caravan. My second was a rival sect, whose vault had started humming threateningly whenever their treasurer lied. By the end of the year, I had 4 staff, a proper copy crystal, and a waiting list of organizations that had suddenly discovered clerks were cheaper than sanctions. Moonspire still calls sometimes. Professionally. Respectfully. Expensively. I consult for them 3 days every quarter. My rate is now 5,500 low-grade stones per day, plus travel meals, because the dining hall still overcooks millet, and I refuse to suffer without compensation. The strangest part is how peaceful my mornings became. I wake before dawn out of habit, but now I drink tea while it's still hot. I fix my mother's shutters properly. I visit my sister when her healer shifts allow it. I even started cultivating again, gently, without trying to force my cracked fire root to become something impressive. Turns out, when you stop spending all your energy keeping arrogant people comfortable, you have some left for yourself. People ask if I planned the whole thing. No. I didn't set a trap. I didn't curse the vault. I didn't sabotage the sect. I warned them. Clearly, calmly, more than once. They just believed the person who understood the system was less important than the person who inherited authority over it. That mistake is older than cultivation itself. So when they pushed me out, I let the system tell the truth in the only language powerful people respect. Access denied. They thought they were replacing a clerk with a bloodline. What they actually did was teach an entire sect that the strongest seal in the vault was not carved into the door. It was the one they had spent 11 years ignoring.